Hi, and welcome to my channel. I am Laura. This is Kun Craft Yoga and Design. This is going to be a class of, well, time under tension. Really, this is going to be a class to try to affect change within our bodies and with ourselves. And so there will be longer holds, and also you may feel that will be harder to maintain the hold for that length of time. So again, anything worth anything, it requires some effort. So if we want to affect change in the body, to become more flexible and to be more mobile within our daily routine, we do have to put in some effort. So throughout this practice, you can definitely do this without any props, but I do encourage having some props, especially towards the end where I have a few cozy, just really great feeling poses to kind of end off the sequence. You may want to have a bolster or else a nice firm pillow, maybe a couple of blocks, and also a yoga strap could be really, really handy for today's practice as we're going to do some hand to big toe poses. And if you can't reach your big toes, you might need to grab a yoga strap. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to come down onto our mat and we're going to lie down on our backs. We're going to start out gently, coming onto our back. And we're just going to get right into it here just by drawing the knees in, allowing yourself to give yourself a great big hug, maybe grabbing a hold of the forearms, and then just draw those knees into the chest, and the hips can allow them to be nice and heavy. Feeling that opposition, that compression of drawing the thighs in. At the same time, the upper body just relaxes. Allow the shoulders to drift down and to sink into the mat. We're going to allow the feet to come to the mat, soles of the feet to the mat, and then we're going to lift the hips up just about 1 inch to offset the hips over to the right. From here, keeping the knees stacked, we're going to come into a reclined twist. So I want you on the very outside edge of that left hip, the right knee stacked on top of the left, and we're going to start our practice here with a twist. Again, just relaxing, kind of unwinding into our practice, and hold. The right arm can come out to the cactus shape. As you see here, that's what I'm using due to my space. You can also have the arm extending out nice and straight into a T-shaped. Gaze either up at the ceiling, or if you feel like it feels good, you can look over towards the right hand. More than anything, please keep breathing in deeply through the belly, feeling that expansion. Even though the thoracic spine does have a twist, you should still feel the lungs expanding both on the back side and also through the front of the body. Opening up and releasing. On the next inhale, let's come through center. And we're going to take that same pose over towards the opposite side. So let's start by lifting the hips up about 1 inch and placing them towards the left. So now the spine is out of alignment, but as you make the twist and drop both of the knees over towards the right, you should be fairly straight in the spine from head to the tailbone. Just having this twist around the thoracic region. The right hand can come to rest on the outside of that left thigh, and the left arm can come out to a cactus shape or again to that T shape, whichever you either have space for or feels good into your shoulder. Your shoulders may not reach the earth, but we will still want to have that intention of feeling the shoulder reaching down so that we have this beautiful openness across the chest, feeling wide across the collarbone. Eventually, someday, that shoulder might touch the earth. Trust me when I say that I did not begin by always getting into the fullest expression of the pose. As I said at the beginning, your achievements usually require effort. Yes, some people seem to be naturally gifted. Maybe your internal structure is suited to where you have more openness in your shoulders or into your hips or hamstrings. Maybe your bones are set up so that they're more open throughout the pelvis. Some things we can change with some effort, but then there are things that cannot be changed, and we cannot change our skeletal structure. So that's where acceptance comes in. On the next inhale, let's come up. Allow the back to come flat onto the mat. And from here, we're going to take our happy baby pose. For our happy baby, we're going to start to draw. First, the left foot. Take a hold of that outside of the left foot, either with the hand or maybe with a strap. If it still is too much for you, you can always take the hand to the outside of that left thigh and then do the same on the right side, drawing both of the knees up and in towards the armpits. Wherever you're at, we're going to hold in our happy baby pose. Feel the low back. Try to make that connection. Again, that may not be where you're at today, but over time and with effort, we can affect change. And someday we might meet that glorious touchdown of the low back onto the mat. In your happy baby, we're going to stay nice and sturdy into the upper body so that we're just using the strength, I should say the weight rather, than the strength of the upper body to draw the knees down in towards the mat. From your happy baby, if you feel like you would like to start to straighten, maybe one leg at a time, and then draw it in, straighten, and bend to affect a little bit more movement in your happy baby and start to get some feeling into those hamstrings, noticing the difference from one side to the other, maybe straightening both legs, holding and breathe for 3, 2, on 1. Let's draw the knees into the chest. You can go ahead and give yourself a big hug once more. Just allow the hips to relax. You can allow the soles of the feet to come to the mat as well if you would like to take a little bit more of a release. Even windshield wipering the legs can feel good. When you are ready, we're going to drop the right foot, sole of the foot to the mat, and from here we're going to extend the left foot up towards the sky. From here, either take a strap and wrap it around the bottom of the foot. You can also take a hold of the outside edge of the left foot, or maybe use the peace fingers of the left hand and take a hold of that left big toe. From here, we're going to keep that right knee bent and just draw the left knee in towards the midline like you're drawing the big toe towards the nose. Sometimes I like to take my right hand and use my right hand to hold the outside of that left foot. Really just adding a little bit of weight here. I'm not pulling much on it. I'm using the left hand to draw the leg in, trying to keep the leg straight, pushing in through that heel and firmly keeping the foot flexed. Holding here. Again, these are longer holds, so be prepared to stay in this posture. Find your setup with your strap or the change in your grip. You can also have both of the hands to the back of that left thigh. Just avoid being on the knee joint. Wherever you're at, try to keep the leg as straight as you can. Maybe you start to extend the right leg out long. Being mindful that, yes, maybe you can't draw the left leg in as closely when your right leg is straight. Again, placement for the right hand can either help with that left leg. You can also have the right hand resting as a little stabilizer for your right hip. Enjoy this pose. We are going to be here for a few minutes. If you need a moment to come out, to bend the left leg, take that and then slowly come back into the pose. Use your breath. Allow the breath to rise and fall. On an inhale, we're going to open up that left leg, taking it out to the side, trying to keep the left leg as straight as possible. Also trying to stay grounded on the right hip so that we're not just falling over to the left. Try to relax into that left inner thigh. Maybe you need to change your hand position or take a hold of your strap. Inhale, feel the belly rise and fall. Try to switch your awareness to the breath. Slow down using the breath. This is what I would call good stress, healthy stress to the muscles and to the joints, adding a gentle pressure, creating strength in the joint, at the same time creating some mobility. On the next inhale, let's come up. We're going to come through center. As we come through center, we're going to take a hold of that left foot with the right hand or the strap if you're using a strap. And then we're going to cross the left foot over. Now, I do have a couch in my way here, so this is as far as I'm going to go. But if you can come all the way over, even shifting onto the outer edge of that right hip, you can allow the left leg to fall over just like you would in a reclined twist, but doing so with a nice straight leg. Let's see if I can give myself a little more space. So I'm still getting a nice twist, a nice stretch on the outside of that left leg, the outside of the hip, into that IT band. Now the IT band is a very plasticky sort of ligament, so it's not really going to have a whole lot of stretch to it, but we can still affect change in the surrounding areas, the joint, the muscles, and the fascia. So if you do have tightness around that area, you can start to loosen the surrounding areas and find some benefits. On the next inhale, we're going to go ahead and come back up through a straight leg, maybe shifting the hips so that you come with your back flat onto the mat, creating some tongue twisters here. One last time, let's draw that left leg in, maybe having both of the hands onto the leg, keeping the leg straight, foot flexed. Inhale, and then exhale, we can bend the knee. And then we're going to draw both of the feet together and take a reclined butterfly pose, using this next 2 minutes to relax and open up the hips before we move on to that hamstring stretch onto the right side. So know that right side is waiting for us and ready to find its way into more mobility. But for now, just allow the hands to rest on the belly and enjoy your butterfly pose. The knees can just come out softly. Relax into the inner thigh. Keep breathing. And when you're ready, use the hands or just draw the knees together. And we're going to start with both of the knees bent. Keep the left foot planted onto the earth, and we're going to draw that right foot in. Again, take your grasp either to the outside of that right foot, or maybe taking the peace fingers, wrapping them around that right big toe, or grabbing your wonderful yoga strap, because we love yoga props. They are so wonderful to have around. And when you're ready, you're going to start to extend that right leg out nice and long. Flex the right foot, push that heel up towards the ceiling, and at the same time, start to draw the leg in towards your midline, drawing the big toe towards the big nose. This is definitely my tighter side. Usually the more difficult side for me when I'm doing my splits. And it has been for a really long time. You know, maybe sometimes, like I said, physically, anatomically, there may be things that it could be too difficult to overcome as far as how the hip fits, or the femur fits into the pelvis, and how deeply we can move into this rotation, opening up into the hips. You can stay right here if this is working for you. You can also start to extend that left leg out long. Again, you may notice it might be a little harder to keep the right leg where it's at when the left leg is extended out long. Wherever you're at, you can adjust the position of the arms. Right now, I'm just using the weight of the right arm to draw the right leg in. The left hand can stay as the little mobilizer for the left hip and hang out right there. Or you can also just bring it to the back of that left calf. Maybe provide a little more leverage, a little more stretch. And breathe. Nice deep inhales and exhales as we hold in this very, very strong hamstring stretch. I said there would be some long holds today, and that is no lie. When you're ready, we're going to open up and come into that open right hip. I'm going to end up hanging out right here because I have my couch, my comfy couch here. It will provide me a little bit of support, but at the same time, I'm still pushing into that right heel, feeling now the transfer into the inside of that the right inner groin, that inner thigh, and then using the left hand as an anchor so that I don't just fall over to the right. So still enacting this very, very active posture, staying strong throughout that right leg. On an inhale, we're going to come through center. Pause here. On an exhale, we're going to change the grip. Take a hold of that right foot with the left hand, and we're going to come into a twist. Maybe shift up so that we come onto the very outer edge of the left hip. So now the back of the left shoulder, back of the right shoulder are meeting the mat. We're in this very deep twist because the right leg is extended out long. We're still pushing into that right heel. And since we're twisting, we're still breathing deeply into the back body. There's so many ways we can change up our twist just by changing the position of our legs. When you're ready, we're going to come back onto our back, shifting up, and then once more we're going to draw that right leg in. Assuming your position of your hands, maybe moving into the strap once more, drawing the right toes in towards the nose, and then let's bend that right knee. You can go ahead and draw both of the feet in, and then let's take a couple of windshield wipers. Relax both of the legs, get the blood flow and moving through the hips and into the lower body. When you're ready, we're going to come to stillness. We're going to go ahead and tuck into a ball and roll ourselves up into a seated position. From here, we're going to take our yogi squat or malasana. For malasana, of course, you can come into the full expression of the pose by having the feet out a little bit wider than hip width distance. Works for most people. Having the feet closer together makes it a little more challenging. So having them a little wider than the hips, feet and toes at a diagonal, and you can lower it down. Elbows to the inside of those knees for your yogi squat. This, of course, is not where everybody is at. Sometimes our heels are lifted. If they're lifted, go ahead and have the hands in front of you to use them as a balance. You can also have a blanket folded up underneath the heels for support, or a fantastic option is always to have one block, maybe two, underneath the tailbone, and just go ahead and sit down on the block and stay right here for your yogi squat. Perfectly acceptable. Any option works. We're going to stay here in our squat, whether you have blocks or not, opening up into our hips, enjoying this very deep and beneficial pose for working into our pelvis, working into our sacral chakra. I find this pose to be very healing and very almost nurturing for myself. It's a great way just to feel myself relax and to find that ease. Some days it's definitely easier than others. As you notice, sometimes I shift a little bit in my squat. That's some to do with my hips, some to do with my feet as well. I like a little movement for the ankles because this is a lot of movement or a lot of bend mobility into the ankles. And if you're up on your toes instead of flat on your heels, that could be a lot of why you may have a little more trouble getting deeply into this posture. It can also be the ankles, not just the hips. When you're ready, we're going to come out, we're going to release the hands, and we're going to go ahead and shift the hips up. Just take a quick forward fold, maybe bend into the knees. And then we're going to lower down, preparing for our frog pose. So for frog, I'm going to come around to the side here so you can see a little bit better. We're going to come first into tabletop and then start to widen the legs, separating the knees. But we're going to look back and make sure that our knees are in line with the ankles. So we have this 90-degree shape. You can stay up high in your frog. Sometimes it's a little easier to come down lower. It's a little less of a back bend. But once you lower into your frog, find your shape and then maybe start to shift the hips back ever so slightly towards the heels. You're going to start to feel your frog pose intensify and start to work a little bit more deeply into the hips. Once you find that little edge where you get a really, really good stretch, pause here. Come back to your breath. Inhale, send that inhale all the way down to those great big joints that are enjoying this very intense posture. Frog pose is usually one, it seems like it's avoided in sequences quite a bit. It's in a vinyasa class, it's probably just a little bit harder to sequence it into a flow because this is something where we pause and we take time. So you'll find it a lot in my classes because I do a lot of slower flows. And we want to take some time. Again, time to affect change. We're causing some stress into the hips and into the fascia surrounding the hips and the thighs. Give your body time to recognize that, yes, I can stay in this pose at this level that I'm at, and I can stay in this shape safely. Over time, once you get used to this shape, maybe you can deepen a little further. Maybe you can shift the hips back a little further. And then the body will start to say, yes, I can accept this pose. I feel safe in this pose. A lot of the tightness that we get surrounding our muscles is the muscles' reaction saying, well, we better stop right here. I want to protect your joint from going too deeply before you hurt yourself. But if you build up strength around the surrounding muscles and at the same time start to work on your flexibility, you'll increase that mobility and the range of motion. And your muscles will start to recognize that you are strong enough in your joints to support some of the deeper postures. But anyways, that's enough of my lengthy talking about that. Maybe we should start to slowly come out of our frog pose. Do so by shifting the hips forward and then start to draw the heels together to take the pressure off the hips. And then we're going to shift back onto our mat. Wonderful. Coming into a nice gentle side bend. Here you'll either want your bolster or a thicker pillow, and we're going to go ahead and set it down about 3/4 of a ways down onto your mat. We're going to lie down onto our sides on the bolster so that the bolster comes about in line with your chest, and then you're going to have your left arm extended. Start to extend the legs out long. If you feel like you need to have a little cross of the legs to stay more balanced, by all means do so, because it can feel a little bit tippy when you lay onto your side. And from here, we're going to take a side lying banana pose. Now, if you've done yin with me, you've done banana pose lying flat on your back. Here, we're just going to take a gentle stretch on our side. You can see I have my left knee bent. Using that as kind of a kickstand, the right leg is out long, so I maintain this nice long stretch from the right fingertips all the way down to the toes, but I'm not really forcing anything. I'm just allowing the bolster to create that little arc, the little rainbow, and then allowing gravity to do its thing. And the upper arm can just relax along the side of the face. We're not trying to hold it up in the air or anything like that. Maybe you can even feel the fingertips crawl out a little further, making this great big rainbow. And when you're ready, we're going to go ahead and take the right arm down, press into the bolster, and then come up, come through center. We're going to switch that around and take this setup onto the opposite side. So I'm going to move my bolster towards the top quarter of my mat, swing my legs around, come to lie onto my right hip with a little bend in my right knee, and then place the bolster just underneath the side of my chest. Extend the right arm out long, bring the left arm up to meet it, and then just allow myself to hang out over the bolster in this great big stretch. I know this can feel pretty glorious because it doesn't require a lot of effort like all of our previous poses, but we're going to have to come out of it and go ahead and start to rise up, press into the bolster with the left hand. And then we're going to come onto our knees into a kneeling position. From here, just go ahead and sit back onto the heels. So now you're just seated into a hero's pose. You can feel free to stay right here in your hero's pose. This can affect a lot of change into the tops of the feet and the ankles, getting a nice stretch there. If it's too much for your ankles, go ahead and take a block and you'll place it in between the shins, moving the block back so that you can allow the tailbone to rest. From here, now you'll notice that the heels are just on the outer edges of the hips. So you're going to get more of a bend into the knees, almost like you would in a full hero. And you can definitely stay right here. Again, you're still feeling this into the tops of the feet, the toes, the ankles, and you're also getting a nice bend into the knees. If you would like to go further in your hero pose, this can be very intense on the knees, so use caution if you're doing this, but you can start to separate the heels out and allow the hips to come all the way down to the mat. So now you can see that the knees have a great angle on them, and then there is this external rotation on the knees, which the knees are able to do, but they have a limited amount of movement. So this may be past a lot of people's movement that they have in their knees. You can stay right here. Again, you can still have that block underneath you or just sitting back on the ankles. If you'd like, you can take your bolster, whether you have the block or not, and start to allow yourself to roll back in your hero pose, enjoying a little supported cushion. If you've taken my other yin classes, you've maybe seen this, lying all the way down to the floor. The bolster is a beautiful option to stay up a little bit higher. Also, it just feels great, the nice softness, the connection with the back, from the back of the head all the way to the base of the lower back. Remember, any of these postures, even though they can seem quite intense when you try them, there are variations that you can try, and I'm happy to help you to find anything that would work for you. If you have any questions, I think this is a good time to mention, please leave a message, comment below. I will do my best to help find something that would work for you in your situation. I hope to make this accessible for almost anyone that would like to enjoy a practice to improve their lives, to improve their mental and physical well-being. To come out of your hero pose, especially if you're lowered all the way back, you're going to want to push into your forearms and then make it to your hands and push yourself all the way to an upright posture. From here, let's go ahead and push into the mat, and we're going to come into a tabletop position. Go ahead and just tap the feet out. Get some movement into the legs. And then when you're ready, just swing the ankles over to the side. We're going to close our practice. You can either come to the mat into a full shavasana, or if you would like to set up your queen's chair or king's chair, depending on how you're practicing, you'll grab a couple of blocks and then adjust their heights. From here, you'll take your bolster. You may need to play around with heights just to see what works for you and for your bolster. And then make sure it's nice and stable. From here, take the low back just so it's just touching that bolster, and then you can allow yourself to shift back and lie back and use this for your shavasana. The position of the legs, I enjoy having a more of a constructed rest position. It allows the lower back to be more supported since it is lifted off, and there's usually a little bit of space here at the bottom of your bolster. So the knees come to touch, and then the arms can come into a low V as we rest in our Shavasana. And take in these last couple of minutes to really reconnect with that effort that we made today. It was a slow moving practice, but you probably felt like you did quite a bit. We moved so deeply into those hamstrings for those longer holds at the beginning of class. We came very deeply into the hips and into the knee joints to end this class as well. Creating circulation throughout the body, feeding ourselves with this nourishment of moving slow and recognizing how we feel throughout the practice in our body, in ourselves. And maybe you just want to hang out here in your supported chair. Maybe this is your new favorite chair that you've created. I definitely could hang out here for quite a while. Whenever you are ready, you can blink the eyes open. Use the hands to push yourself up to an upright position. Come around to take a seat on your mat. And if you're ready, we will close our practice by taking an inhale, reaching the arms up to the sky as you connect the hands and draw them down through heart center to close your practice for today. As always, thank you for joining me on your mats. Again, if you have any questions at all about this or maybe some other pose that has been challenging you or something that you would like to make an improvement on, please leave a message. I may intertwine that into a practice in the future. I would love to hear what you have to say. As always, hit the subscribe button for new videos every week and have a great day. Make it a good one. Bye.